through this oppression, it has also built distrust within our community. There's plenty of people that are just done being denied, that are done being mistreated and disrespected, that just give up on home buying altogether and just say, hey, I'm just gonna rent so that I don't have to deal with that stress. And they do that so that they can survive with the mental challenge and barrier that comes with it. But what I do within YBH is all rooted within inspiration. It's rooted in hope and encouragement, because there is a positive light. We are doing the work right now. We are helping people that never thought that they could ever own a home get into home ownership, and that starts with advocacy and information.
Man, what's going on, everybody? Man, this is a special iteration of the Blueprint Table podcast. Man, it's your boy Brandon, and I am sitting in the presence of one of the Seattle area's most coveted real estate professionals here. Her name is Anzhane Slaughter.
Yeah.
And she is a first-time homebuyers guru. She is a serial entrepreneur out here with almost 10 years of experience in the real estate game. She is a native to Seattle. And so I just want to introduce her. Welcome to the podcast, Ms. Anzhane. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep. So Anjanae and I have known each other at least for the last few years. You know what I mean? When I got into the real estate game, I remember I was just like reaching out to as many real estate brokers as I could that were kind of in the area. I'm trying to remember even how we met. Like, I feel like it was through social media though.
It could have been, or
Maybe
at one of your events.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I met you as this phenomenal piano player, this keyboard artist, this master of just curating bands and just connecting, throwing events. And it was only fitting to really see you add real estate to all of the other services you do, because you have such a gift and craft of just connecting with people, relating to people, meeting them where they're at, and giving them what they want. So, that's how I think that's how we might.
Yeah, actually, I think that is. Yeah. And, it's so funny, we're in the habit of now trying to like remind people who we actually are, like me and my co-host, because our producer Q was like, hey man, he was like, we making a lot of good content, but you gotta start talking about yourself more.
Oh, yeah.
You get what I mean? So guys, if this is your first time, even though this is episode 10, if this is your first time watching, I am a serial entrepreneur myself. I play music. I'm a real estate sales professional and everything like that. So I get to network with a bunch of amazing people, just like Miss Anjane. So I want to actually get a little bit more into your story, of how you got started, but let's start all the way at the beginning. Could you let the people know where you're from, who you are, and then we'll ask a little bit more questions about how you got into your career path that you're in now.
Absolutely. So as Brandon mentioned, my name's Anzhane Slaughter, proud Seattleite, born and raised right here in Seattle. Currently top producing real estate professional with Remax Integrity. Also very proud to be the CEO and founder of Young Black Homeowners. We're a real estate education company that offers culturally relevant and trauma-informed homebuyer education and resources. Two of our biggest programs right now are $150,000 down payment assistance program and our $25,000 debt reduction grant program. We offer these to help close the gap and get people into homes. I also invest in my own time. I got 2 rental properties right now, one short-term rental in Tacoma. It's an Airbnb, and actually a new build that I'm building in Cancun, Mexico, which is very exciting. But my background actually stems from law and policy. I got my degree from the University of Washington in law, because I was one of those kids that was just always passionate, for what's right. And so at a very young age, people were like, oh, she's going to be an attorney. Just that girl can't stop talking about what's right, and fighting for it. So I've always had that spirit, but didn't really know how I was going to fit into the legal world. And so after undergrad, I actually took some time off and started working in government and policy. It was the best 6 years off from school that I could have taken, because it, really gave me opportunity to make connections with elected officials, with subject matter experts, community members, all of the key players in the grant writing roles that I often find myself in to get these programs to YBH. So Yeah, that's just a little bit about what I do. Background, I come from not wealth, the opposite of wealth, actually. I
Mhm.
was born into a single parent household.
And do you have any siblings?
I do. I have, well, my brother, who was killed in 2023.
And my condolences.
Thank you, thank you. It's we need to do a lot of work around gun violence prevention here in the Seattle and really across the country. But yeah, we grew up in the same house together, and then my dad has a few kids. He was a Papa was a Rolling Stone, so we got a few kids on that
It's all
side.
right. It's all right.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, coming from a single parent household, where wealth and home ownership and wealth building opportunities just wasn't a conversation that we had at our dinner table because we were more in survival. That background is really what propelled me into building Young Black Homeowners, creating this education company, because I don't believe it's fair nor just that you have to be born into a family of wealth in order to get the information that you need in order to build wealth or to change the trajectory of your life. I believe everyone, no matter what your background is, no matter where you come from, we all deserve access to this information, and access to homeownership, because it is the number one way to build wealth. Studies show that when a homeownership increases, health outcomes, negative health outcomes decrease, overall grades with children increase, violent acts in the home decrease. I mean, studies just show the overall quality of life improves with homeownership. So that's why I do this work. That's why I'm very passionate about, increasing homeownership.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much for
Mhm.
sharing that.
Yeah,
Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not joking. She's for real. She's for real.
I do this.
And so thank you so much for giving us kind of like that context of kind of where you're from and what got you into real estate. So can we take you back to like Anjane's first year as a real estate professional? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like what literally made you go and get the license? And then could you explain kind of your first year? Like, did you still have a job? Were you balancing the two? Did you jump right into entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. So I got licensed in 2017. It's been 8 years that I've been in the industry now. And I was actually still in undergrad at college. I got my real estate license because of the studies that I learned, the historic policies that have excluded, Black and Brown communities from wealth building opportunities. I I learned that while I was at UW. I wouldn't have had that equity lens or that view on real estate if it wasn't for my studies. And so, with that information, I was like, well, now that I know how powerful homeownership is, it's so powerful that government and white supremacy would literally build in barriers, systemic barriers that exclude people. That's how powerful land ownership and home ownership are. And so, knowing that, I knew that, okay, I can't sit back and hold this information. I need to go out and share. I need to figure out creative ways to help people combat this narrative and
Mhm.
combat the status quo. And so, that's why I got licensed, and started teaching the first time homebuyer classes right away.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is crazy. Now, so because initially I wanted to start talking about like that first year of entrepreneurship, but you just dropped so much. Um, and if we could talk just, I don't want to say briefly, but just touch on it for a
Yeah.
second. So when you say that you saw how Black and Brown people were kind of excluded and literally, legally taken out of, or there were legal barriers put in place for them to be able to own land here. Could we talk a little deeper about that? So,
Yeah.
so was that when you learned that at UW? Were we talking about the Seattle area specific, or is it something that we saw all over the U.S.?
Yes. So UW is so great of an institution because we do talk about the macro and the micro.
Hmm.
So we talked about national policy that discriminated against homeownership. And a lot of that we could see in redlining and more in mortgage loans and what kind of loans were being offered in certain areas.
Hmm.
What kept a lot of people from owning homes in redlined areas is because banks would not lend in these areas. And they literally drew a red line around the areas where banks would not lend to. So if you don't have the money, the resources to buy, then you're going to be excluded. And that was one barrier. Another barrier, we have racial based covenants. And these were prevalent across the country, but also here in Washington and specifically within King County, which is one of the wealthiest counties in the country, right? And these covenant is just another word for a contract
Mhm.
or an agreement amongst buyers amongst sellers, neighbors, developers that basically said you cannot sell to these people within this protected class. And Black and brown people, as well as some people of Asian descent and Jewish descent, were also included in some of these groups where these sellers could not sell. So we have that other layer of, that is another policy layer, because these covenants were actually upheld in our court system right here within Washington state. So it's not only one thing to have this contract, but then to want to sue the people that created the contract, and then you go to court and the court upholds the contract rather than what was actually just, which was to not discriminate. And then we have de facto racism, and racism that wasn't necessarily on a policy lens. It wasn't codified or written anywhere, but you would literally have backlash where from whites that if you did try to buy in that home, they would put these pressures on the sellers, violent pressures to keep them from selling their homes. So there's multiple layers that we see in history, and some even still today that are trying to uphold these race-based covenants to prevent people from accessing homeownership, but more importantly, that wealth building that can happen over time, which really, can solve or avoid a lot of the negative things that we have to go through as a community without wealth. So yeah, it's very, very much true in the national level. We knew that the Fair Housing Administration, even after the Fair Housing Act of 1968, once we started having FHA loans, which were supposed to increase access to homeownership, the data shows us that Black people were excluded from those opportunities, that actually those policies helped more white women than they did, Black and brown communities. Because women were also, gender within that protected class. But it's such a thick layer of oppression, which is why the work that we do at YBH is so important. Through this oppression, it has also built distrust within our community. There's plenty of people that are just done being denied, that are done being mistreated and disrespected, that just give up on home buying altogether and just say, hey, I'm just going to rent so that I don't have to deal with that stress. And they do that so that they can survive with the mental challenge and barrier that comes with it. But what I do within YBH is all rooted within inspiration. It's rooted in hope and encouragement, because there is a positive light. We are doing the work right now. We are helping people that never thought that they could ever own a home get into home ownership, and that starts with advocacy and information.
Man, that is so absolutely beautiful. And so thank you so much for sharing all the information. I just need to talk to the viewers again. Like, that is a drive. Be genuinely a student of the game and be very passionate about things, and your passion will literally lead you down that path. Because there's so many different reasons why someone will go toward a different vocation. But I can even just tell with the conviction that you speak with, like you really mean it.
Oh yeah.
And that clearly shows in the success that you've been having, because it's not BS. It's really real, and it's based in passion. So before we get into to YBH, I want to talk a little bit about like your first year, your first couple years of entrepreneurship. Just because even with passion, sales, marketing, branding is a whole nother animal. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so, talk us through like your first couple transactions. When did you get to a point when you were like, oh, wow, okay, like, not only do I see, like, because of course you saw the potential of being able to support yourself, but when were you like, okay, I got it?
Yeah. So one, they tell you when you first get in the industry that your first deal might come 6 to 9 months after you actually get licensed. And a lot of that is because you have to build time to build your brand. It takes time to build trust amongst your audience, your sphere of influence, whoever your network is. They have to trust that you can actually help them achieve a goal. And you have to also gain knowledge. There's a lot of information that we need to know in order to be successful, in order to help people actually make smart investment decisions. And then there's a lot of tools that, they do not teach you to pass the test, the exam to get licensed, that you have to learn in order to even accomplish the task of helping someone submit an offer or submit these other forms. You have to learn the forms. You have to learn what negotiation points in these forms protect the buyer, which protect the seller, and how to kind of navigate that process. So my first year, like a lot of us, it was just built in getting as much value, information, taking as much trainings as I possibly could, so that I could present myself to my community with value. I was actually my first deal though, because
You were your own first deal?
I was my first deal. I bought my first house being my own realtor, because who else was going to trust me? I mean, I'm new in the industry. I wasn't a homeowner, so I wanted to position myself as a homeowner, real estate professional, and with a little bit of experience. So it was. I'm not gonna lie though, I was scared. I was scared a little bit, but I'd rather be, I'd rather have that feeling and me be the buyer than be protecting somebody else or representing someone else, not knowing what I'm doing,
Of
and
course.
then it be on them.
And that sounds scary, to be honest, because it's like,
Yeah.
wow, like, you don't have anybody else that you could even blame if they didn't put the right, I'm forgetting the right, what do you call it? The,
Yeah.
Form 26 or utility addendum, the right addendums, the right negotiations on whatever property. That's
Yeah.
And so, can I ask a little bit more about like the nuances of that first deal? Do you mind, like,
Yeah.
just like, what did you know who the seller was, or did you just literally go on the MLS yourself and just kind of seek it out?
Yeah, no. So I went on the MLS like I would with any other buyer. I knew I was pre-approved, right? So I went through the pre-approval process. I actually used down payment assistance on my own.
That's what I was going to even ask.
transaction.
Okay, wow. Okay.
So I went through a first time home buyer class, the same one that I turned around and got certified to teach. And so, yeah, like the traditional process, I scoped the MLS. I, at that time, was approved for only $250.
Okay.
So, I knew I wanted a single family home. I knew that the numbers show that single family homes appreciate at a higher rate than a condo or a townhouse. So I was looking for long-term investment. As an entrepreneur, we have to always be thinking about ways that we can secure ourselves financially. We have to always be reinvesting our money because we're going to have some good months. We might have some bad months. And so I knew I wanted a home. I had to go actually all the way out to Tacoma to buy that first house. But I'm glad I did, because now, 6 years later, 7 years later, I mean,
you're swimming in equity.
We're swimming in equity. So
it's beautiful.
It was a great investment. But yeah, straight MLS, submitted my offer. I didn't know how to use transaction desk, which is it's the portal, it's the tool that we use to write up our offers. So all of that was a learning curve for me. But the good thing was that not only did I get that lived experience, I was also able to use my commission towards my closing costs. So I came out like $1,000 for that purchase.
Come on.
And now I'm sitting on $200K in equity. So off of $1,000, you guys.
I mean, she's giving the game, like, seriously, y'all, like, no joke.
Yeah. Especially if you're a real estate professional, you gotta own something. Get out there and own a condo, go buy a single family home, because you really don't know the pressures and the emotions that are attached to this process. It's very stressful. And in order for us to best service our clients, to put ourselves in their shoes, it would only add to your value. It adds to how you're able to anticipate needs, anticipate fears, because you were able to put yourself in that position.
In those shoes.
In
Wow.
those shoes.
I mean, there's a multitude of positive things that you just said there. I mean,
yeah,
taking the chance on yourself. Like she just said, you got to trust yourself first. You know what I mean? And then putting yourself literally in the shoes of the people that you're trying to serve, so that you can think about the transactions that you go through from every single angle. Like you said, you literally cannot walk in someone's shoes until you walk in them.
Yeah.
So that's really, really dope. So then once you started actually doing transactions for other people, can you talk a little bit more about that? Like how you started acquiring the business? How did you start acquiring your leads? Were you just on social media? Were you doing open houses? Were you cold calling?
Yeah. So again, and I got into real estate to increase Black homeownership. I knew that. And I knew most Black people, especially here in Washington State, are renters. I mean, right now within King County, our homeownership is about 29%.
Wow.
Wow. And there's only 4% of Black people in this whole state. So for only less than a third of us to be homeowners, that means there's 2/3 of us that need to get into housing, that need to get into homeownership. So I didn't realize it at the time, but those workshops were my lead gen. That was how I was building leads. And I will tell you that these leads were converting at least 50%. 1 out of 2 people that I met in my workshops were closing a deal with me within 6 to 9 months, because the people that are coming through to the workshops already know that they want to buy a house, and probably within 2 years, because those certificates only last 2 years, right? So that puts a little bit of some urgency onto it. Some might even already be in contract and they just need it to close. Those deals don't always stick together, and they realize, well, the educator at that workshop was better realtor than the one that I was working with, so I'm going to go work with them now because that deal is no longer going through. And also, you're able to present. I was able to present myself as an expert in front of people that were wanting to buy houses. That's the first thing that we have to do as professionals if we're looking to be taken seriously in this profession, is you have to know what you're talking about. You have to be confident about what you're talking about. You have to be willing to talk in front of a filled room of people, and not hesitate, because you did the research, you did the data, and that anyone could challenge you, but you would have the necessary information to back it up. So, those leads were great. But not all my buyers were looking to buy where I was at. So I will say that when I first got in the industry, I was traveling a lot further out of my area to close some deals. It was the first time I ever went to Ording, Washington.
Come on now, Ording. Hey, listen, I used to live out in the stick. Ording,
Man.
South Hill, Puyallup,
Yeah,
Bonnie Lake.
Seriously, I was driving to Enumclaw, Marysville. I mean, Linwood. You have to go to the business. I come from a background in sports. Like, my family, we've always been athletic. I played basketball and volleyball, softball growing up. You always have to go to the ball. That's just always been coaching in sports, is go to the ball. And that doesn't change when you get in real estate. Especially when you're newer in the industry and you're just trying to establish yourself, you got to work with who wants to work with you, and if those people want to look all the way out on the east side or down south in Centralia, I was going down to Yelm, you guys, because I was like, hey, I want to get the experience. I want to get the content. I want to, get the client reviews. So I was working a lot harder back then. Today, I'm blessed to say that I stay within King and Pierce County, but also that I've developed a very strong network of professionals in those other counties where I can still refer people out and receive a referral fee, which is revenue, which is income, without having to drive 50, 75 miles one way.
Yeah, every time they want to see a house too, because I know it wasn't like you were closing a deal every time you opened the door. You might open 8 doors, 10 doors before somebody actually goes, right?
Well, best believe I'm showing them the best of the best properties while we're out there. We're going to go all day. The goal is to put an offer in once we're done showing.
Hey, respect. See, I'm even getting a masterclass too. So thank you for this filmed console hour. This is really what this is. No, I'm just but for even just sharing these expertise, because what I got from what you just said, because I'm taking in everything.
Yeah.
Study to show thyself approved. we talk a little biblical here on this
I love it.
channel, but that's literally what you said.
Yeah.
You can stand in front of one person and you can stand in front of a packed room, but you have to know that you can stand 10 toes down about what you're talking about whatever you're trying to sell, whatever service you're doing, especially when it comes to assets like this, because this is not just someone's hard-earned check. This is like the biggest purchase that most people will make in their entire life, right? And then what you said too, just making the best out of your time.
Yeah.
If you have a lead and you're trying to service somebody and help them find a solution to whatever problem they're trying to find, which for yours is homes, you're not even going to show them 15, 20 homes over 6 months. You're going to do the research initially and really listen to them, put yourself in their shoes, and find options that that fit exactly what they communicate with you.
Absolutely, because everyone's time is valuable, and buyer fatigue is real. Buyers that are shopping forever, they can end up just throwing in the towel and just saying, forget it, because they're tired. I get from buyers a lot that they do feel kind of rushed sometimes in some processes. And one is, you want to always work with the professional that you trust, that has your best interest at heart, and you can arrive at that before you even go look at any house, right? because often those pressures, we wouldn't feel so much pressures if we had established that trust before even going out to look. The other thing is a lot of buyers don't know what they want. Buyers need to figure out what it is that they want. Sometimes it's not even that they want to buy a house. A buyer might not even know that they want to buy a house. And if that is the case, then you and your professional really need to sit down and talk about it before you even get out shopping. We should not be, because, we should already know that we want to buy before we're shopping. Real estate professionals have gas that they have to pay for. It's time away from other buyers that are very serious and that need to purchase because they're having a baby or their lease is running up or they have some sort of element of determination that's going to get them to the finish line. You have to already have that before you really want to step out and start shopping. And then, of course, you got to be pre-approved and know your budget,
Of course,
before you start shopping. What ends up dragging processes out is that buyers don't get their offer accepted. And that's fair. I mean, we can only shoot our best shot. We can only do the best that we can do. And we have to believe that what's meant for us will always be ours. And sometimes we do have to adjust our expectations to what if you're really keen on this location, then this is what you're going to get. If we want to be open, if you are really keen on this price, then we can this is what you're going to get.
Okay.
But if we haven't really drilled down those priorities, what they really want, then that's what's really going to drag out. That's what's really going to drag out the process. People getting bid out. We just have to keep going. And I'll tell you, I've worked with buyers in Seattle. This is always, it's never slowed down. Even after COVID, it didn't slow down. Prices didn't really correct. They still kept going up.
Even
by like
interest rates,
1%.
it's like, oh my goodness.
Even when the highest interest rates with the highest price points, we're still seeing growth in the Seattle proper because we have high income earners that can still afford it. And there's a lot of people that are getting bid out that end up being on the market for a year plus, 2 years plus, but they don't want to be. That's just that's the temperature of the market at that time. But for buyers that feel like they're being rushed, that feel like they're being pressured, you really have to ask yourself, am I really being pressured or do I not know what I want at this time? And maybe I should really just take a step back and figure out what it is that I want before getting back out there. Because your agent, likely, if they're putting pressure on it, it's because they have to. It's because there's other offers on the table. This house is going to go off the market. It's a great deal, and so they don't want you to miss out on that opportunity. A good professional, that is.
A good professional.
There's always
there's ones that just want that check. Y'all.
There's always those bad professionals, and that's why I said you can gauge that before you even start shopping.
That is absolutely beautiful. I want to ask one more thing about career, and then I want to get into YBH.
Okay.
Is there a deal that comes to mind, or maybe a handful of deals? And you have to say what specific deal or a type of deal that comes to mind that really impacted you, just even as a professional, that you're like, wow, what I learned from this deal, whether either closing it or it took a long time, or you really had to get savvy with your negotiation, that you can talk about. And can you talk about some of the principles that it brought out of you or that you learned from it and share it with someone who may want to hear?
Yeah. So, man, there's been so many deals. I closed 17 deals last quarter. We're on the trajectory.
I think it's a personal record.
That is definitely
That's in 3 months, y'all.
Record.
17 homes closed and sold in 3 months. It's very hard to do.
Yes, definitely. So that was like May and August, which is also the peak time of year in real estate. But if I can pull out just some, a transaction that really had a major impact on my business, oh man. Oh, well, let's just talk about my first $1 million+ deal.
Yeah,
okay?
Of course. Let's do it. Yeah.
Because that is a different type of buyer. That's a different type of seller. And those are just different price points.
Mhm.
Now, what's interesting about this deal is I actually signed the exclusive listing agreement, I would say maybe 3 weeks.
Okay, so you were representing the seller.
Yes.
Okay.
Representing the seller.
Mhm.
I agreed, they agreed to take me on as representation maybe 3 weeks before interest rates started to kick up in 2021. And if you can remember back in 2021,
it was a wild, wild west.
Oh,
the lowest of the low interest rates. Anybody
could
sell a house.
4% interest rate growth within 3 months. It was crazy. People that were approved, imagine, if you're approved at 700,000 then the next month you could be approved at 450. Because when interest rates double, your approval amount is slashed in half. Because the amount of money that you can afford, unless your income doubled in that month, which is not even realistic to even say, because we know banks want to see history.
Of course.
They want to see all that stuff. So it really took a lot of buyers out of the market. It also impacted prices. Now, this house, it was beautiful oceanfront property in Steilacoom, Washington, which is Pierce County. Beautiful, right off of Puget Sound. And it had, gorgeous windows, 3 balconies. It was a unique floor plan, I will say. It was kind of like an upside down house where more of the bedrooms were on the main level, and then the kitchen was upstairs. So you kind of had to go upstairs. But it had an elevator. It was just a unique home in a beautiful area with this beautiful water. We listed originally. Now, when we represent sellers, we always run our comps. We present them with what we believe is our market value, the evaluation of that home. And so I did all that pre-work, and then the sellers, of course, still wanted to list it like $200,000 higher than that. So we did. It's their house. We listed it with, despite my advice, we listed it with where they wanted to list. And we came up with a plan to adjust price if we didn't get any hits, right?
Of course.
That's just what you do. We listed it too high, but we did get a buyer in like the first 10 days, which in this price point in Steilacoom, especially as rates are jumping up, that was not something, that was really a shock. That was really a shock to even get a serious offer that early. And it was at 1.2. So we originally said at 1.4, it was at 1.2. Everything in my gut was trying to convince these agents, the sellers, you gotta take this offer. Rates are going up. We don't know when we're gonna net their offer like this. And it just happens to work out that this buyer has a house down the street. So they're trying to do a compound situation. Perfect situation for the seller. But no, they were adamant. They felt disrespected,
of course,
by this $200K, less offer. We ended up staying on the market. Probably it was over 30 days before we got our next offer. That next offer came in at 1.1. Now, before that offer came in, we already adjusted price to 1.2. We went back to that other buyer to say, hey, do you still want to,
nope, I'm over it now.
Exactly. That's what happened. Nope, interest rates are up. We don't know. I'm not interested. And so I had to, of course, tell my sellers that. And then all we had to do was say, hey, just keep the faith, and we'll hold out. This other offer comes around. First of all, they weren't even going to write up the offer because they were wondering, is this too much of a low ball? Is this going to, is it even going to land? Now, if I was less experienced and I went off of my sellers, what they said, I probably would have said, yeah, maybe it is too low, because they're really firm on 1.2. They didn't even want to accept 1.2 20 days ago when they should have. So they probably only going to accept 1.2 now. But I didn't say that. I said, no, write your best offer. Write your best offer, and I will present it to my sellers. At this point, my sellers just want to see some paper in front of them. And they drafted up 1.1 with an inspection. We actually ended up getting that one in contract. And we closed. We closed without having to do any sort of adjustments. The house was in really solid condition. But my major takeaways from this were a few different things. One is that it only takes one offer to come across the table. Some sellers, they are looking to have a bidding war, and they're looking to see a whole bunch of, but you really want to list your home at what you're willing to accept it, what offers you're willing to accept, and then after that, always present an offer, draft up an offer, especially in today's market. Even, this is, this case story that I'm talking about is from a few years ago in 2021, but here we are in 2025, and interest rates are still sitting around 6.3, 6.5. Now is the time for buyers to just draft up that offer. You never know what's going to be accepted. We have inventory that's literally stacking on top of each other right now.
Yeah.
Sellers are
canceled,
motivated.
more expireds than ever. Yeah.
Exactly. Sellers are motivated. They have a lot of equity in this area. If you owned a home prior to, definitely prior to COVID, you're sitting on a lot of equity because we saw so much appreciation during COVID. And so with that, sellers can afford to adjust price a little bit. Maybe they don't want to, but if they want to sell, they will. And so those are the major things, man. One is like, present the numbers to your sellers. Work with what they want to do, but always know that they want to see that paper in front of them. You don't know what they're going to accept. They might not even know what they're going to accept. Real estate, this is an industry that overlaps with our own lives.
Correct.
And our lives are constantly changing. Things can change from one day to the next that can motivate a seller more than it did the day before. And so for that reason, just draft it up.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so last thing I want to touch on, just because I want to be respectful of your time and just want to say thank you again for amazing conversation. But I want you to be able to dig deep into it. That's why I want to get into it now. Young Black homeowners. It's your business that you put together to educate young Black homeowners, and you have a couple of down payment assistance programs that you guys do. I want you to talk a little bit more about that. And then I also want you kind of to mow in a little bit more about where the market is right now in King County, Pierce County, just the Seattle general area, how you can help them with young Black homeowners, and kind of where you see young Black homeowners going in the next few years. I know that's like a jumbo question, but it's kind of touch again on what it is, how it applies to what's going on right now in real estate, and where you see your own business going.
Absolutely. I love that. So Young Black Homeowners, also YBH. You're going to hear me talk about it a lot as YBH.
Yeah, we've been dropping YBH, Young Black Homeowners. That's her business.
Yep. So we're a real estate education company. That means we offer, of course, the education through culturally relevant, trauma-informed homebuyer workshops. I also developed a curriculum for professionals that I market to government, municipalities, as well as financial institutions like banks.
As well as your yearly Black Equity Gala, or I want to throw into, sorry, don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. No, that's definitely
amazing.
Absolutely. The professional training, I'm really passionate about that because it's for banks, governments that want to engage more with communities that are trauma informed. A lot of these banks, they want us to take out their mortgages. They want us to do business with them, but they don't know how to treat us with respect when we walk into their facilities. They're not aware of the numbers and the data within mortgage denial rates that even could give them the cultural sensitivity when engaging with our communities that are trauma informed. So I go out and I train these professionals as well, even real estate professionals, offices that want to connect better with communities that are trauma informed. But when we're not doing the workshops and when we're not doing the trainings, Brandon's absolutely right. We have our celebration, our annual celebration. That's the Black Equity Ball.
That's coming up.
That is right. This year, our fourth annual will take place February 28th, 2026. It's actually, I'm really excited. This year it's going to be a masquerade ball. So Black Equity Masquerade Ball. It's February. It's Mardi Gras. We're going to bring all the Creole New Orleans flair to the space. But really, it's a formal red carpet event to celebrate existing and aspiring homeowners. Black homeowners. Representation is so important, especially in a state where our numbers are few and far between. It's important that we see people in the room that have crossed the threshold of homeownership to know that it's possible that we can do it as well. We also fill the space with resources, banks, nonprofit, government entities that have down payment assistance programs, that have any sort of housing programs, even for our homeowners that need to repair their furnace or they need new appliances. We bring in companies that want to offer subsidies, discounts, to help equip them once they become a homeowner. So I love to celebrate. We have to. Black excellence is not celebrated enough, and Black homeownership definitely isn't celebrated enough. Which is why it's so important that we're doing it right here in a place where we see Black homeownership at a 15% deficit than the national average, even though we only make up 4% of the state. And this work is so important. The resources and the education. One, education is everything. It's the first thing. There's so many myths. There's so much noise out there with social media that if you're not properly informed or educated, you're not going to know what's true versus false. You're going to take a lot of these assumptions with you, and they're only going to set you up for probably loss or failure, which is not what we want. We want to break some of these myths and give you the real deal information to make you confident as you're going through your process so you can really anticipate what's coming next. But we also know that resources is huge. Affordability is the name in the game right now. Our market, not only just here in Seattle or King or Pierce County, but across the country, we're facing unaffordability rates that are higher than they've ever been because home prices are higher than they have ever been, and interest rates are pretty high when it comes to what people can actually afford for a housing payment today and in the banks.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And in the bank's perspective. So how do we still get people into homes? Well, we have to close that gap. We have to close the gap between what people qualify for based on their income and what they need in order to meet these sellers to get their offer even accepted. And a huge way that we can close that gap is through down payment assistance. We're offering significant sums of down payment assistance. Our program, which is $100,000 to $150,000, can be layered with statewide down payment assistance programs like the Home Covenant program, which is already covering 20%. I want to say our largest awardee received $336,000 towards the purchase price of her home.
Wow.
And these are all modest size houses because there's obviously income restrictions to these programs, but we also live in a high income area. So don't count yourself out. You likely still do meet within the income restriction because average home price, the area median income in King County is $146,000. So we have programs that will allow you to make up to $180,000 and still qualify for assistance. So the low income is not what it used to be.
That's how expensive it is out here in Seattle. And I've been trying to do some research there, and in the city of Seattle, it said that the median 3-bed, 2-bath house is like $960 right now.
Yeah.
So the fact that you can make $180, it actually makes sense because even at $180 per year, a mortgage on that, even with 10% down, you're still going to be paying
right. You're still considered
crazy amounts of money per month. Yeah.
It's still considered unaffordable by the state's definition of what affordability is.
Yeah.
Which is affordable. The definition is that your payment can't exceed 35% of your income. Now, the banks will often allow you to make, will allow you to spend up to 48 to 50% of your income, but the state wants to see less. So it ends up being unaffordable. So assistance can come in and close that gap. Let's say your income qualifies you for 500. We can come in and bring 100 or 150 on top of that. And now we can be in the 600 range, 650 range to actually find family something that meets their needs and in an area that they want to live in. So it's huge right now for buyers, especially for our single income earners, our single households. General rule of thumb is that the banks will lend 3 times what your annual income is. So if you're making $100K, then you probably can get qualified for about $300,000. But that's nothing.
It's tough. Yeah, that's not even a condo in Seattle. Yeah.
Definitely. There's still opportunity. Washington State, we are the first state in the country to pass a 20% down plus closing costs assistance program that's here to address the harms done by the racial-based covenants in our state. If that doesn't show you opportunity, then I don't know what will. And they just improved the program to where if you make less than 80% of the area median income, then after living in that home for 5 years, that assistance loan is now forgiven. So you don't even have to repay it. Wow. That's money straight into your pocket. That's wealth in your family's, pocket. You just, again, we're the only state in the country that has a program like that. So the opportunity is definitely here.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
So in closing, I want you to do a couple things. Like I said, tell us kind of what your vision of success would be for YBH, let's say even in the next 20 years, in the next 50 years, why not? And then I want you to let the people know where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you, how they can get in touch with YBH so that they can get some of this education and down payment assistance.
I love it. Yes. So the goal for YBH, I would love to have 100 educators across the country helping people get into homes definitely within the next 20 years. If not within the next 10.
Yeah,
right?
I was about to say 100 plus, but that's beautiful.
100 plus. Because our program, YBH, is a model that not only helps home buyers and professionals, but also those real estate professionals that want to become experts like I have in this industry, that wants to teach workshops, that are passionate about this work. We and only our educators will have access to our programming, our assistance. So it'll also help them build their businesses. And I'm someone that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my mentors opening a door and allowing me to walk through it. I want to continue that trend. There's so much room for wealth and success in this industry. The pie is so big that I believe we all can eat and eat well and make good, positive impact at the same time.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so then, because like I said, I know we're wrapping up here. Where can the people find you? How can they get in touch with YBH for all the education and down payment assistance?
Yeah, so YBH and myself, we're on socials,
Okay.
Instagram, Facebook. Look us up, Young Black Homeowners. My personal account is Sold by Anjane, but you'll see a lot of cross posting. We also have a website, www.youngblackhomeowners.net. Look us up. You can find our articles, updates on programming, updates on events. Actually, join our newsletter. It's probably going to be the best way for you to stay engaged with all of the new programs and workshops that we have coming out in the area. And so, yeah, just stay tuned for what's next. Our Black Equity Ball, the Masquerade Ball, is coming out soon. Tickets will be available here soon. So mark your calendars for that, February 28th, 2026. It's going down. It's gonna be a good time.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, so Anjane, again, I just want to say a really, really, really big thank you so much for coming down and talking to us. Like, just everything that you drop, I don't even think you understand. So many gems. I know that could help entrepreneurs. I know that could help future homeowners. And I look forward to the next conversation, because we literally could have gotten so deep into any sort of even subtopic, you know? So I just want to say thank you again for your time, and you're doing amazing things out here. She already let you know where you can find her. Again, this is the Blueprint Table podcast, where we have these empowering conversations about entrepreneurship, about real estate, about anything economic. So if you want to get in touch with us, we are on Instagram at the Blueprint Table, and you can reach me at _ Brandon J. Young. So I just want to sign off, say thank you again. My name is Brandon.
Perfect. Anjane Slaughter.
Yep. And we'll talk to you guys next time. Thank you so much.